There's going to be playoff battle drama at Dens. Can Celtic keep up the title pressure? And we look ahead to Monday's game of the season. I'm Charlotte Cohen, and alongside Scott Allan and Andy Halliday, we'll guide you through a pivotal Premiership weekend. Hello and welcome to the Scottish Football Podcast. All the news, views and analysis you need on Friday the 1st of May. And it's the weekend preview.
We've got 4 really difficult games, very important games, and we have to make sure that we get the results and the points required to ultimately achieve our goal, which is to stay in the Premier League.
Can Dundee or St Mirren get a vital win to pull themselves towards safety? And can Celtic get revenge over Hibs for their defeat last time out?
And the Hibs substitute has just surely won the match, seen at Celtic Park for the first time in almost 16 years for Edinburgh's green and white.
A win is a must for them as we head towards the game of the season on Monday. We look ahead to the gigantic match at Tynecastle as Hearts host Rangers.
Braga, lovely header, Shankland in tight angle, scores! It's still Gini Gassama, it's opened up beautifully for him, he's found Shamiti on a hat-trick, and Shamiti scores!
We have got everything you need to know about this weekend.
The Scottish Football Podcast from BBC Sports Scotland.
And alongside me to chat all of those things, Scott Allan, former Hibs midfielder. Morning, Scott. Which game are you most looking forward to this weekend?
I think that speaks for itself. I'm going to say Monday's game, though, for me. Hearts v Rangers at Tynecastle, so much at stake. Hearts could edge closer to their title, and I think a defeat for Rangers would see their title hopes all but surely gone for me.
And alongside us, Andy Halliday, Motherwell midfielder. Morning, Andy. I assume your answer is the same.
Yeah, morning, Charlotte. I think it's impossible to go against that. You said it in your intro, game of the season, and I think it is undoubtedly that. We knew there was going to be twists and turns every week during this post-split. We obviously got a twist last week with Rangers dropping points at home to Motherwell, and now we know that one of the teams in the title race are guaranteed to drop points on Monday night. So it's going to be an interesting one. You always felt the top 3 places were going to fluctuate week to week, and again it could do so on Monday.
Well, let's start first of all at Dens Park on Saturday, which is a massive game in the battle at the bottom of the table. Scott, I mean, Dundee, we kind of mentioned this on yesterday's podcast, Dundee had been looking like they were finding a bit of form. A win would put them 5 points clear of 11th with 9 left to play for. But they've kind of been struggling for victories recently. I mean, where do you think it's going wrong for them?
I just think over the course of a season, I think you have dips in the squad. There's most certainly been that for Dundee of late. I think it was like the defeat at Tannadice last week was especially against your closest rivals across the road. At Tannadice, for me, it was a really poor performance from Dundee. If you're looking at the team selection, there was a few raised eyebrows with some of the players that obviously were on the bench, players who have been good for Dundee throughout the course of the season. But at the same time, Dundee United took their chances, and obviously the pitch does play a slight part. It makes it a bit more difficult to get the ball down and play, but Dundee United, for me, were the superior team on the day. So Dundee they have been kind of dragged back into the mix if they don't start winning games. So there's no going to be how big a game this is for Dundee at the weekend.
Same for St Mirren as well. They'll be without Jonah Ayunga, though, after his injury. They've also had to they've extended Ross Sinclair's emergency loan in goal. Andy, first of all, Ayunga, he's going to be a big miss for them, particularly when they've kind of been struggling in front of goal.
Yeah, they're the lowest goal scorers in the league, so if you're that, you need to have as many of your strikers fit as possible. I've said that a few times this season, but I find it really surprising the amount or the lacky amount of goals that St Mirren have got this season, just given that I think that Mandron and Ayunga and Jake Young, when he can play, I think they've got strikers in this league that are capable of scoring goals. I think the big issue has been a lack of creativity. I think over the years, a lot of their creativities came from the wing-back area, whether it's been Ryan Strain when he was at the football club, whether it was Scott Tanzer when he was playing at left wing-back. I don't think they've had quite the same output for their wing-backs. And then again, when you look at that midfield, big, powerful players that can start to play in build-up areas, but that final third, they don't really have that player that can can play a killer pass and open doors for them. So as much as since I think Craig McLeish's came in, I think they've played some good stuff. I think they've been praised for it. A couple of good results within that as well. But when you're in these games against your closest rivals in the table, and you know that every game's going to be pivotal, you need goals. You need to guarantee yourself that you're going to be give yourself the best opportunity to win games. And at this moment in time, they just look a wee bit toothless in front of goal.
Kilmarnock are another team desperately in need of a win. They're against Dundee United, but Scott, I mean, they seem to have been improving. Neil McCann in his press conference yesterday sounded very confident. Obviously was very frustrated with the defeat at Aberdeen, the early goal conceded and not being able to find the back of the net after that. But this again is just another massive game for them.
Not getting away how big a game it is for Kilmarnock. Obviously 2 points behind St Mirren, hoping obviously Dundee doing them a favour there, and it allows them to get closer to try and get to that relegation spot. For me, I think the best performances have been at home. I feel like, in all fairness, the Aberdeen game, I think going down so early in the game is never good. It happened a few weeks before that against Hibs as well. So the early goals, how they're starting games is definitely, there's a question mark there. But the response to going to go down so early, there's so many chances hit the woodwork, and it just didn't fall for them in front of goal, and that sometimes happens when you're near the bottom of the league. So it will be a game where I feel that Neil McCann and Kilmarnock will think they can go and win the game. I just think we're talking about players up front who can make the difference. I always felt when the loss of John Jules when he got injured against Celtic, I felt that was going to have a huge impact on the team. As much as I think Hugo's come in and done well, John Jules was in great form at that moment. Pace, powerful, and could score for this all a variety of sort of goals. So losing him was always going to have an effect on Kilmarnock. But it's a game where they'll definitely feel they can win. I think the way Neil McCann's speaking, he's really positive. The group will be positive hearing the manager say that. It's a home game against a Dundee United team who look nailed on for 7th place as much as they've picked up of late. It'll be a game Kilmarnock have to win. They have to win. For me, they have to win.
In the top 6, Falkirk, Andy up against Motherwell. That Motherwell that we saw against Rangers was much more what we've all been used to seeing of Motherwell this season. What do you think changed for you? Because you'd obviously been struggling with results, putting in decent enough performances, but back to the weekend, it was like all guns blazing again.
Yeah, I think there's a few layers to it. Like you says, I do think the performance levels have still been good, but maybe not as good as it's been in the final third. The manager throughout the week had a game plan to tweak it slightly. Obviously, we went into the game playing with no striker. I think your standard football fan, I think if you're playing with no striker, it doesn't give you the best opportunity to score goals at the top end of the pitch. I think we proved that otherwise. But yeah, I agree with you. I thought it was Motherwell back to their best, especially in that opening 45 minutes. But what I will say as well, I think over the last maybe couple of months or so, I've always said that teams this season, when they've played Motherwell, regardless of seeing how good they are, I still think they've not gave Motherwell the respect. I don't mean disrespect, but they still think it's Motherwell. We can still get points off them. We can get after them. Whereas over the last month or two, I actually think they've sort of earned that respect, and teams have made it a lot more difficult for them. They've tried to sit in a kind of lower block, frustrate them, make it difficult for them to find spaces in the final third. So I thought the game at Ibrox suited Motherwell and ourselves a wee bit because it was a bit more open. Rangers made it a man-for-man game, and we just managed to find the overloads in certain areas to really, really punish Rangers. And what I will say is I think all 3 games last week involving the title race challengers, I thought Celtic's game against Falkirk was really entertaining. I then think that was followed up with a Rangers Motherwell game at Ibrox, which I thought for the neutral was outstanding. And then an Edinburgh derby that had 2 red cards and a last minute winner. So we knew it was going to be entertaining, given how special this season's been going into this post-split fixtures. But if we get around the fixtures this week that we got last weekend, then we're in for a treat.
Well, your weekend listening starts with the Saturday show at 9 o'clock on BBC Radio Scotland, where Stephen and Amy are joined by Jamie Murray. That's followed by Off the Ball at 12, and Sports Sound starts at 2 o'clock. Livy Aberdeen tonight. Scott, Livy finally picked up their second win of the season, their first since August. Marvin Bartley saying in his presser yesterday, if they can somehow manage to save themselves, it would be the biggest achievement of his career. But Do you see it happening?
No, but you're allowed to dream. Listen, I think Marvin Bartley getting into Livingston. I think there's been some really good performances within that. Just over the course of the season, too many draws at times in games where they've had chances and not taken them. And they are what they are for their performances throughout the course of a season, and that's usually where you find yourself. What I will say is though, waited a long time for that win, and they got it obviously last week against Livingston. I thought they played well. Second goal was a fantastic goal. And you look at Aberdeen, who, yes, obviously they get the early goal last week, but it wasn't with Stephen Robinson up there. There's a lot of changes have to happen at Aberdeen in terms of player profile and how they're going to look next season. But they were a team a few weeks ago. Me and Andy on here were kind of tipping them to be in the relegation playoff because we just couldn't see where the wins were going to come from. They've managed to turn that around, but for Livingston it's just another case of trying to win the game. They would have to probably win every game for me to have a chance of moving up a position in the league, but I just can't see over the course of them because other teams have got so much to play for them being able to do that. But they've gave themselves a bit of confidence within the squad. Obviously looking for a win for that length of time will obviously have an impact on the team, but clean sheet and 2 goals will stand them in good stead.
You touch on Scott Aberdeen there as well. They've obviously we all kind of I think thought that they looked like they were in serious trouble a couple of weeks ago, but they kind of seem to have turned it around. Stephen Robinson was saying in his press conference yesterday, he's really proud of the character the players have shown, and they were, people were doubting them, and they've kind of proved those people wrong. But I suppose, Andy, they're maybe not completely convincing just yet.
No, they're not. But the funny thing is, it's been Stephen Robinson that's been doubting their character. But he's quite quick to jump on people that have been doubting his players when it was him that came out after the game at Ibrox and gave them a scathing attack. But listen, like Scott says, we never seen where a win was coming from. Never mind back-to-back wins and 2 clean sheets to go along with it. So yeah, give them a lot of credit for that. When you've won one game in 16, like he says, you don't expect them to then go back to back. And for me, that win against Kilmarnock last week at Pittodale, but sees them safe. So I think Aberdeen can now, which is probably more important than the next 4 games for them, I think they can now look ahead to next season and start to rebuild their squad, because like Scott says, there's a lot of players there that are on good money on long-term contracts that they're going to have to try and shift. And they need an influx of players to be a much better Aberdeen side going into the campaign next year.
You can hear live commentary of tonight's match on Sports Sound from 7 o'clock on Radio Scotland Extra. Right, top of the table, first up, Hibs host Celtic. Scott, must win for Celtic. They'll obviously have in the back of their mind that defeat at Celtic Park against Hibs not so long ago. How do you think they'll be feeling?
I know how David Gray and that will be feeling, but how the fans are feeling, this is why this game's got so much of an edge to it. A lot of Hibs fans obviously throughout the week. I know a lot from Edinburgh. Quite happy if Hibs maybe don't win on Sunday, which is it's incredible. But for a Hibs fan, their worst nightmare is Hearts winning the league. There's no getting away from that. But I think you hear David Gray, Joe O'Neill yesterday out speaking about the game. When you're a player of a club, you just don't have that mindset. So they'll be going out feeling if they can get a win, and they've shown they can beat Celtic. As you've seen, obviously that performance at Parkhead, they made it hard at Easter Road. They always, historically over the last few years, it has been a difficult place for Celtic to go. And they were so unfortunate last week, obviously going down to the 9 men. Obviously start the game with getting that goal from Martin Boyle on his last hurrah for Hibs. So I just feel like it could be a difficult game for Celtic. I do. I think Hibs have some really good players within their squad. Paslak being missing, I think will be a big miss. I think he's been excellent since he came in January, and obviously Salinger drops out for Jordan Smith coming back in. But it's a game I feel David Gray and his players will think if we can get 3 points, and Motherwell obviously they're away to Falkirk. If something could happen there in favour of Falkirk, then Hibs just edge closer again. And they obviously ultimately play each other on the last game of the season. That could end up being an incredible game if Hibs managed to close that gap. But it's a game where Hibs, I do feel, will still cause Celtic lots of problems. The
one thing for Celtic, Andy, is they're now managing to score goals. 9 in the last 2 games, obviously that flurry late on in the Cup semi-final against St Mirren. Do you feel like this is them maybe finally finding that killer instinct and that scoring streak?
Yeah, I definitely think they've improved, that's for sure. And I think the main improvement that's come from Celtic has been off the ball. I think their energy and their intensity to press at the top end of the pitch is making it really difficult for opposition players. And you actually look at the amount of goals Celtic have scored recently by them pressing and winning the ball in the final third and then springing into attack quickly and scoring. So I think when we've been speaking recently about Celtic having to improve in possession, I actually think that we're probably seeing the best of them in possession. I don't know if they actually have a whole lot better. I don't know if we're just using them as a barometer to the Celtic of last year, the Celtic the year before, and over the last decade or so. And I think Celtic's best opportunity right now of scoring goals is the likes of Dizameda getting after people and nicking the ball in the final third, and then Celtic springing into attack quickly. And I must admit, having watched the game in the Sports Sound studio last weekend, I do think that the fans, I thought they made a difference at Celtic Park, and I don't know if it's just this stage of the season, obviously in a really tight title race, but I think that transferred onto the pitch with Celtic playing with a different type of energy. So, last week when I was sitting on the podcast on Friday morning, I had Celtic third favourites. I probably have them favourites now. That's just how much it can and easily change within this league this year. Like Scotty says, that they've got a difficult game. Hibs, for all that people have spoken about their inconsistency at times, one thing's been pretty consistent has been Easter Road. They've been really good at home. Obviously, they dropped points and lose the game last weekend against Hearts, but to get your goalkeeper sent off after 13 minutes and then lose your right wing back after 47, it's always going to be difficult. And I thought they defended ever so well up until the dying embers of the game. So I do fancy Celtic for the game, don't get me wrong, but I seen it being a pretty tight one.
Well, on Sunday, Sports Sound is on air at 11:30, followed by Off the Ball at 3:00. The big one on Monday, Hearts against Rangers. Andy, you've played for both teams. If Hearts win, that's it done for Rangers, do you reckon?
Yes, it's. I think it's done for Rangers, absolutely. It will then go to 7 points between Rangers and Hearts with only 9 points remaining. So, yeah, they're absolutely out of it. Which is funny because on the face of it, Rangers getting a point at home to Motherwell, you can't say it's a good result. They obviously have to win that game, but I do think that goal by Manny Longuello in the last minute, I think, completely changes things. If that finishes a draw, then Rangers are only 3 points behind Hearts with a better goal difference going to Tynecastle. So even a draw in that respect, I still think they're in the race because there's 3 games to go. It only takes Hearts to lose one, Rangers to lose one. But I just think that 4 point gap means if you draw that game, then games are running out. So I think that it's a game that Rangers have to win. And it will be really interesting to see how they respond to that. If it is 1-1 or 0-0 with 10 minutes to go, for me, I think they have to completely throw caution to the wind to try and win the game. Does that then suit Hearts to then try and hit them on the counter-attack with the likes of Kabore that will no doubt come off the bench with his pace towards the end? So I think it's going to be a fascinating game, but without doubt it's one that Rangers have to win to stay in this race.
One of the big issues for Rangers, Scott, is this kind of Jekyll and Hyde performances. We've seen them in games be so poor in the first half and then unbelievable in the second half. It feels like they just can't seem to string together this 90-minute performance. Is there any reason?
I feel like you've said that about all the teams in the top 6 this season at times. Is there any reason behind it? I think it's obviously Danny Rowe, and as much as he gets credit for it, sometimes it's having to make changes at half time. I think at times he's been outwitted by the opposition manager, none more less than Jens at the weekend, and it took him 45 minutes to make the changes instead of maybe seeing that 25 minutes in. For me, I think you should be able to see that. I mean, Andy spoke about that. I think leaving it to half time, if you can spot that earlier in the game, it's 1-0 instead of 2-0, and then you're really up against it. So I do feel that has had an impact throughout the season, but at times they've managed to overcome it and get the win. You think if Rangers get the second goal, they're then going to go on and win it, and Motherwell have a consistent way of playing. They have options, they're brave in the ball, and it kind of, as soon as Rangers scored, Motherwell kind of regain control of the game again, and then obviously go on to win it. So I think that has been a problem in terms of how he's set up tactically in first halves, and at the same time teams maybe not putting them to the sword when they are on top. But you have to credit the obviously character they then show to get back in the game. Chermiti with a huge chance even at 3-2 to get that crucial point. It would have been, as Andy just spoke about there. But there's no going to be. Dyrell has come in. He's made some difference from what we've seen under Russell Martin. But I do still feel tactically at that in times they can be caught out in, and as we've seen, that was why we obviously fell to defeat to Motherwell at the weekend. So this game I do think will be different though when you look at how Hearts are with their physicality. They're a wee bit more direct than what Motherwell are. They're on the back of a great win obviously against the derby rivals in Hibs. It's just a game it's going to throw up so much drama I feel for me, and whoever team defends better out there too I do feel will be the victors. I think the game could be settled by a goal here or there. So generally, I feel like we're saying every week, can't wait for this game. This again just goes up another notch because there's so much at stake for this one. Hearts obviously pulling away, and almost if they win the game, they'll kill Rangers' title chance, and if Rangers win, then they'll have huge momentum going into that big game next week again.
Yeah, Andy, I mean, can you remember a bigger game at Tynecastle in your lifetime?
No, I don't think so. Given it's been 40 years since anyone outside Rangers and Celtic have won the league, I mean, we all know the narrative this year. It's been week by week, month by month that everyone feels that if Hearts are going to falter at some point, and with 4 games to go, 29 weeks in, they're still top of the league. So I just think that the Hearts players have been believing for a long period of time. I think the country's starting to believe now, especially after winning that game at Easter Road last week. And if they follow that up by beating Rangers, who was probably most people's favourites going into the split, I think if they do that, then I don't think there'll be anyone left out in them. And then it shapes them up for 3 games to go to be the favourites to go and win it. So it's been nothing short of incredible what Derek McInnes and his Hearts players have done this year. No matter what happens, I still think they deserve a lot of credit for it. But I mean, it's just there for them now to go and grab it. And Tynecastle will be absolutely rocking on Monday. Can Rangers try and frustrate them by implementing their own game plan nice and early? But again, it's one of the games that you just can't wait for. You know, we've still got 5 unbelievable fixtures before Monday night, but just the implications of what Monday's going to be, it's just going to be an amazing watch.
You can listen to that pivotal match on Monday evening on Sports Sound on Radio Scotland from 5 o'clock. Well, finally, let's talk a little bit about the other leagues. All the championship games are tonight. Morton against Airdrie and Raith against Ross County. 3 points between the 3. Scott, I wonder if you think County maybe have a wee bit of an advantage there, given that they're playing a team who is already safe.
Yeah, I don't think a Dougie Emery team. I don't think Dougie Emery's going to accept players going out and think they're on the beach already. It's just not in his makeup at all. I think Ross County they just have to win tonight and hope someone else does them a favour. There's no getting away from it. That Morton Airdrie game is going to be incredible. There's no getting away from that. But Ross County, they've managed to spring into life the last couple of weeks. It's a good result last week. And Raith Rovers, listen, I think Dougie Emery getting in there, there was some challenges at the start of his tenure, but he's obviously got that trophy in the bag, which I think for him was a huge thing. And I think there'll be huge changes at Raith again in the summer. But for Ross County, just win the game, incredible, because I'm sure at the start of the year, I don't want to go back and look at the predictions, but I'm sure I'd tipped them to win the league, and I think we all did, looking at some of the players that brought in experience. We always think that stands you in good stead to go and win the championship, but for one reason or another, just performances throughout the course of the season has just been nowhere near good enough for what Ross County were expecting this year. So they just have to take care of business and hope elsewhere results go their way.
In League One, Andy, Inverness have a 2-point advantage over Steny at the top, but Inverness at home to Hamilton, who need a result to avoid the playoff spot. Very, very intriguing game.
Yeah, it is. And obviously Hamilton are down there due to restrictions off the pitch where they got that points deduction, so it's not as if they are the second worst team in the league. They've shown this season they've been able to beat anyone, and I think that's going to be a real tense one. I think Inverness will be disappointed with their performance levels last week, but obviously managed to get that late goal to to get them a crucial point. That being said, I do think that throughout the course of the season they've been really, really good defensively, and they've got a couple of players, Alfie Stewart in particular, that can get them a goal out of nowhere. So I think Inverness are going to be the favourites to get it done over the weekend. But if Hamilton do manage to spring a surprise, which is possible, I think Steny will be there to pounce. And if they do it, Stenhousemuir, then what an incredible job Gary Naismith's done over the last 3 seasons to get the club to win their first ever league title in League Two, to back that up with 4th in the league last season. And then, us at Motherwell, we played them in the League Cup group stage at the start of the season. I think they had about 12 trialists in their squad, and I'm not even exaggerating. So to basically not have a squad at the start of the season, to build that in the coming weeks, and then to be in a position going into the last game to potentially win a league twice in 3 years for the first time in the club's history is a remarkable achievement. So go down to the wire like many other leagues in the country this year, but yeah, I think it's one that I think Inverness will just go over the line.
And in League Two, Scott, East Kilbride only need a point against Clyde, but how are the nerves?
I was actually more nervous last week getting into the Dumbarton away game. I really was. This week I'd probably say it's the best the squad's probably trained all season in terms of energy, focus, things that you'd expect getting into the last game when you need a point to win the league. But I did feel that last week was a huge step for us getting closer to that title home game to Clyde. We've had some good performances against Clyde throughout the course of the season. Clyde obviously play off Tuesday. I'd imagine you'll have some players who are obviously bookings away from missing the playoffs, so you don't quite know what Clyde will look like, but what it will be is competitive. So for us we just have to be fully focused, do what we do. We look to control the game, and when the chances come, we've got to take them. Obviously our main goal scorer this year, John Robertson, his numbers have been incredible this year. He'll be our go-to guy, as he so often is for us, but as a squad, and so considering we made changes in January, we've brought in a lot of young players coming in on loan. I think we've got 5 or 6 young loan players from teams who are in their starting 11 week on week, so it would be a huge achievement for them, and especially a lot of them in their young careers to go and lift silverware if we were to get the right result come tomorrow. But not as nervous as last week, but as soon as the game kicks off, then all the thoughts start coming through your head. But for us, it's full focus and make sure we take care of business, and most importantly, if we get the performances, then we'll expect to create the chances that we usually do.
You can watch Raith Rovers v Ross County on the BBC Scotland channel from 7:30 tonight. Right, let's end with our quick fire prediction questions. Usual drill. No waffle, no explanation, just one word or as few words as possible. Andy, I'll start with you. Which tie is going to be the coupon buster this weekend?
Hearts Rangers.
Scott?
Hearts Rangers. Yeah.
Where, Andy, is it going to kick off?
Hibs Celtic, if Hibs score.
Scott?
Tynecastle if Rangers score.
Andy, which team are favourites for the playoff come Saturday night?
Kelly.
Scott?
I'm going to go St Mirren.
Which team is top of the league, Andy, after Monday night?
Hearts.
Scott?
Hearts for me.
And finally, Andy, who is going to be making the headlines?
Danny Rule.
Derek McInnes.
Well, that is all we've got time for. Many thanks to Scott and Andy, and thank you for listening. Remember, we are here with new episodes of the Scottish Football Podcast bright and early every day, so make sure you don't miss out. Subscribe on BBC Sounds and have push notifications turned on in your phone. Enjoy your weekend, and we'll catch you again very soon.
For everything you need to know about your team this season, download the BBC Sport app. All the latest news, goal updates, stats and scores, and insight and analysis. Just select your club to get the biggest stories and best content at your fingertips. What a result. Download the BBC Sport app for everything you need to know about your team this season.